A good workflow is critical to everyone. The more efficient you can be, the faster you can work, and ultimately, the more money you can make. That is why today I'm going to share with you 5 tips and tricks to help increase your workflow and productivity in Carveco Maker. Some of them you may know, but hopefully there's a hidden gem in here that makes your life much easier. And let's start with number 5, a really simple one. The cut and trim tool is a great tool that people use all the time for cleaning up their vectors and overlapping lines. The problem is a lot of people use it by going click, 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 click on every single line they need to get rid of. If you click and hold down once and just drag it over all of the lines you need to get rid of, it'll do it all in one swoop and save that repetition on your index finger. So a really simple one that can make your life much easier. Number 4, customizing your toolbars. Now on screen there are often toolbars and buttons that people do not use that regularly. Now within Carveco you can turn all of those different toolbars on or off. You can even edit the buttons in specific toolbars, and if you want to go a step further, create your very own custom toolbar with just the buttons that you use on a regular basis. This is a great way to speed things up because everything that you need is going to be in one very specific place. And let me show you how we do all of that right now. So within Carveco Maker, the first thing we'll want to do is come up to the edit menu and down to options at the bottom. Now on this new pop-up, the bottom menu says interface customization. Just click to expand that down. Untick these 2 options regarding the lock toolbars and the reset toolbars pane when opening files. Now what this basically does, first one is pretty obvious, is it locks the toolbars as they currently are. The second one, it will reset all of the toolbars every time you open it. That's why we want both of them unticked, because we want to be able to customize them. So once we've done that, we'll click apply. Now if we right click anywhere on the toolbar area, we can see that we can turn on or off the various menus, but we want to come down to customization. Now what we can see in here is all a list of the menus, and in each one all of the different tools available within those specific menus. You can also come over to the toolbars tab, which is similar to what we just saw, where we can again turn on or off the various menus, such as the make one, turn it off, turn it on. Now in terms of editing these, you can literally go in, click one of the tools and just drag it off the bar and it gets rid of it. It really is that simple. And let's say for example you want to restore it to how it originally was, click the reset button, click yes, and everything goes back to normal. Now I said earlier about customizing and making our very own toolbar. So we're going to click on the new option, give it a name, James, we'll click OK. And now we have this new box pop up right here. So if we go into the commands list now, what we can either do is go through here and find all the relevant things that we use quite often. For example, let's go into the vector menu, drag a square in there, maybe come down to the left alignment, and ultimately you can then build up your toolbar however you want it. And once you've got all the buttons in there that you use regularly, your toolbar is then complete. We can click close, and ultimately you can pin this wherever you want. If you want it on the top menu, put it up there and it goes up there. Now the reason it's just all greyed out is because I've not got any vectors selected that I can edit that with. But if we come over to like the 2D view for example, and I select a few things, some of those buttons will come back to life. So ultimately that is how you can then edit your toolbars. Now if you want to make sure everything stays as it is, click the lock toolbar, but make sure that you do not click reset toolbars and then click apply, and whenever you close this down and reopen it, that should be in exactly the same position. Number 3, did you know your material size is just an illusion? It's there as a visual aid to help you out whenever you are designing. Now this is going to sound a little bit lazy, but hear me out. You often get a scenario where your original design needs to be enlarged bigger than the model, or the thickness of your material has changed. Now yes, you can go into the menus and add a border to it, or equally go into the menus and adjust the thickness of your material. But 99% of the time you don't actually need to, because vectors and things that are still going outside of the canvas will usually be included when you are calculating all of your toolpaths. And let me quickly show you what I mean. I've got this sprocket design on screen at the moment, and I've just deliberately left one toolpath showing these red lines around here. Now let's say we need to enlarge this bigger than our model area. We can simply just select everything, hit the T button, hold down Alt, let's stretch it bigger than the canvas, take it about there. Then all we need to do is go back to our project, recalculate that particular toolpath, And what we can see is the toolpaths still work outside of the model area. And similarly with material thickness, as long as you have adjusted the depths in your toolpath, you don't necessarily have to do it in the material thickness separately as a different setting. Now obviously the one exception to that is if you're zeroing off the bed, not the top of the material, then yes, you still need to account for that. But as I say, a lot of the time you don't need to add all those extra things in because Carveco is still going to calculate it when it's doing its toolpaths. Now what I would say on that point, it is more of an emergency situation. As I said, it's a little bit of a lazy route around things. Wherever you do have time, add the border on to make your model wider or adjust the material thickness correctly. Because ultimately, if you saved your original model looking like that with all the vectors going outside of the work area, you may come back to it at a later date and be a little bit confused. So it can save you time, but ultimately in emergency situations. Number 2 is grouping, or more specifically layers. Now this is usually relevant to more complex designs, but it can apply to simple ones as well. Now you may already be familiar with grouping, where you take several shapes and ultimately lock them together to be one selection. Now this is useful and can help your workflow, but ultimately if you need to edit something within that group, you have to ungroup it, edit it and regroup it back together. Now instead of grouping, if you put those on different layers, everything still remains editable individually, or you can then select them all as one if you need to, just by going into that layer. So it really has some benefits, as I say, especially on complex designs as well, because you can turn on and off all of those different layers to see exactly what it is you're editing. So yes, grouping is good, but if you do them on layers, it's even better. Coming in at number 1 is shortcuts. Now most people are familiar with things such as Control-C, Control-V to copy and paste. But if you click on the help menu, there is an option to show you all of the shortcuts within Carveco Maker. Now this is a really useful menu because it breaks it down into sections as well, such as 2D view, 3D view, that type of thing. Now don't get overwhelmed by this list. Pick 2 or 3 of them, start to integrate them into your workflow and it will become second nature. Then move on, pick another couple, do the same, and before you know, you'll know all of these shortcuts for the various different commands. Now I will also put a link in the description area to a printable version of this, which some people like to have next to them whilst they are working. And another useful thing to mention is when you go into the menu system, you can sometimes see these shortcuts next to the relevant commands such as Control-C, Control-V. This is one way of identifying them, but let's take it a step further. Did you know you can customize your own shortcuts within Carveco Maker? So again, if we right click on the grey area and come down to customize, we have this keyboard tab. Now this is where all of your shortcuts are essentially stored. So if we go and find something that is fairly common, let's say edit, and find the copy option, there we are. We can see Control-C is currently assigned to this. Now this is where you can ultimately create your own shortcuts for things you use regularly. Let's say you always align all of your vectors to the left. We'll come to the vector menu. We'll find where it says align to left. There we are, left. Currently there is no assigned shortcut key for it. So we're going to click in here, we're going to press Control and the left arrow, and then we're going to click assign to make that permanent. Now if we close this box down, go over to the 2D view, turn our vectors back on. Now what I'm simply going to do is select all of these vectors together, press Control and the left key, and boom, align them all to the left. So again, that is just another way to really speed up your workflow in a similar way to customizing the toolbars. You need to take the time to do it, but it's going to save you so much time in the future. So that's 5 things that's hopefully helped you save some time or improved your workflow. And if you did like this video, then let me know in the comments section down below, because I may do another follow-up video just focusing on more tips and tricks for productivity and workflow. And ultimately, share yours with the rest of the Carveco community as well. It's great to see how other people find tips and tricks to get around things or make their working life much easier. Now, of course, obviously, if you did like the video, give it a thumbs up and make sure you've subscribed if not done so already. Thank you very much for watching, and final thanks as always goes to my patrons. I will see you all on the next episode.